What's up, guys? Leyton here for UFC Gambling Addicts. The giveaway is available. We do it every weekend. We're not going to stop unless someone continues to win it every single weekend. As for the Russia card, bit of an up and down card. I went 7 out of 11. Not the greatest, not the worst. I'd like to apologise to anyone who took Antonina. I refuse to say Shevchenko. That woman is Antonina. I have no words for her performance. She had one job and, yeah, failed massively for 15 minutes. Also, I'd like to say thanks to anyone who supported the channel, subscribed, anyone who listens weekly. We hit 500 subs, and I really appreciate that. So, yeah, enjoy the breakdown.
And welcome to episode 28 of UFC Addicts. My name is Aaron, and I'm here as always with my co-host Leyton. And we are here to break down UFC Fight Night 150, Jacare versus Hermansson from Sunrise, Florida. I'm here as always with my co-host Leyton. What up, buddy?
Good introduction.
Ran out of gas there at the end.
Yeah, good.
I had
Good
that awkward
introduction.
1 second pause. Thank you. And I already interrupted you, so go ahead and comment on that. So,
okay, so Russia. Bit of an up and down card. I broke even, then made a little bit of profit, but, Antonina, what can you say? She had one job. She failed every single block of that job. Worst case scenario would be getting taken down and controlled on the mat and not even being able to get back to your feet, and that's exactly what happened. Apart from that,
yeah, you did not use her last name there.
Yeah,
she is
I refuse.
She is Antonina for however long is left in her UFC career.
Yeah, I mean, how could we call her a Shevchenko? I know she's got the Muay Thai, but she's a shell of her sister. And most people would say they knew that
out
before.
Shevchenko after the fight.
Yeah,
which just
really did
not
she?
A big fan. Oh, she sure did. She said she likes her chances against Valentina if she gets the title shot.
That's laughable. That's really funny.
I would see another zombie girl situation, I think, but. At least I don't want to spend any more time on that performance. That also busted. Yeah,
lovely.
The co-main and we did get the co-main and main event. The co-main, I was impressed with both guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of saying that a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying I'm impressed by a guy losing, but I mean this Arman Tsarukyan guy. He came out and I think out grappled Islam to start.
Mm-hmm. He hung in there, man. He done so well.
And Islam was a lot bigger. To me, Arman looks like maybe he could be a featherweight. Am I crazy there?
I wouldn't say crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if he can, I don't know, but if he just looked a little bit too small for 155. Mm-hmm. There are just some beasts at 155, and I just think he may be one of these 150 type guys who's caught in between a few weight classes, but either way, I'm looking forward to seeing Arman. And I mean, talk about a tough debut facing Islam in Russia in the co-main event, and he at 22 years old didn't seem to shy away from it. So
yeah,
I was
great
impressed.
Performance, both guys.
Yeah, and then the main event, we both got it right.
Yeah, we got it right. It was like friendly. It's like a friendly fight.
Yeah, and I think they were friends, and I think that's kind of what happened. Is you had two guys kind of going in there and looking for action, but maybe not to exactly brutally hurt the other person. A lot of body shots, weird overhand hammer fists. Alexei did get the fight down for a moment and make it a little bit awkward for a second, but Alistair was ready for it, so credit to him. Mm-hmm. Once again, Alistair's in a situation where he's a fight or two away from a title shot. That's part of being in the heavyweight division. Me personally, I'd love to see him face Ngannou. Mm-hmm. Again? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I would. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying right away
for him with that fight.
I'm not saying right away, but I think if both guys win I don't know what Ngannou does, but both guys win their next fight and are kind of waiting for the DC Lesnar shit show to get figured out. I could definitely see Alistair getting another shot there. And I'd be interested to actually see it again, even though live I definitely saw it and I saw Alistair get
killed.
Rocked and dropped. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is I just don't know. But if he's wanting to fight in the upper echelon heavyweight division, how many options is he going to have? But I'm also not a matchmaker, so who knows?
Fair play. I basically agree with you with how friendly the fight was. There was times when Alistair Overeem would like let up Lineker and he wouldn't kind of hit him, and it was weird. Even with the finish, it was like
when he had his back there as Lineker was getting,
and he wouldn't punch him.
Fire off that was weird.
It was weird, it fight.
It reminded me a lot of Machida with what's his name, Filipino Wrecking Machine, Mark Munoz.
Oh right, yeah, I got you.
Like just a lot of respect, and in no way do I think it was fixed or anything like that. It's not what we mean by friendly, but it was just two guys who really respect each other. And I don't know if I've noticed this, not to hang on too long with this, but Oleinik had his wife in his corner.
Yes, he did.
And has he always have his wife in his corner?
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Yeah, so, I mean, your biggest fight of your career in Russia, and he really got a hero's welcome coming out there, too. And he had his wife in his corner. I got to question that. But either way, this card, I feel like, is quote-unquote a more normal card for the UFC, even though we do have the late replacement Hermansson. But besides that, just a lot more familiar faces. We got a few debuters, but in general, not too many debuting fighters. So
I'm looking forward to shaking off Russia. And I will say, before we get into breaking these fights down, we are 3 in a row for main event picks. So it's safe to say that the dark magic is slowly fading. I know the Russia card was a little bit up and down, but that's 3 mains in a row. And it started with Gagey, and that was the first episode on this channel where you convinced me not to pick Gagey. I feel like we've broke the spell with Gagey. Hopefully,
and it's not like it's all underdogs or all favorites. It's been a mixture here now. And the main event tonight, I feel rather confident in, actually. So
it's a good fight.
We'll see as we go through this card. I do like this card for the most part, apart from one fight, which you will know my thoughts on very quickly. But besides that fight, I'm very much looking forward to this card. There's a couple guys returning from some layoffs that I've missed, and we will jump into it as we go here. But we are starting at 185?
170.
Or 170. That is perfect. Just a little bit of a what's up from Chico before we start. Hopefully that will be the end of, I think it's known as background noise.
Yeah, he appreciates the pod, man.
Yeah, he's excited to get started too. But let's get started at once. I couldn't have planned that out better.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, that was great. Let's start at 170 with Court the Crusher, Mcgee, and Diego Lima. What a interesting Mad Libs fight this is. I will be breaking down Court the Crusher Mcgee. He is now 33 years old, still fighting out of the pit. 19-7 overall with 3 TKOs and 7 submissions. He's 11-7 overall in the UFC. He got a very much needed decision win over Alex Garcia in his last fight, and he was coming off 2 close, I won't say controversial, though one of which was a controversial decision. But his decision against Ben Saunders, I very much question Ben Saunders getting the nod in that fight. But I think that if he avoids the shots from Lima in the first round that he's got to be aware of based on kind of Lima's last fight. I think that's where Court's in the most trouble. If he avoids those shots in the first round and starts to take them into deep water, work his cardio and wrestling, I'd say that Court can get a sub by the third round. So I think I just look at the wins over, like his split win over Whitaker, which it was a close win, but it was a split win at 170 over Whitaker. He's beat a couple other guys in Steele and Ryan Jensen, but even his losses, like against Ponzinibbio, LaFleur, Saunders, Strickland, none of those were completely blown out of the water. And I think that earlier in his career, he really prided himself on his toughness more and felt like, I've got to go in there and trade shots and take some and I'll deliver some. And as he's gotten later into his career, he's realized I don't necessarily have to take all that punishment. I think Court looks to make the fight dirty, looks to get into a clinch, possibly get him to the ground. So I think that by the third round, I think he'll have Diego pretty tired, and I think he'll be able to snatch up a submission. So yeah, I'll say third round submission for Court Mcgee.
Nice. Nice. I'll start off by saying I pretty much agree with everything you've said there with Court Mcgee. Diego Lima, 2-4 inside the UFC. He got knocked out a couple of times in 2015, got cut, came back in 2018, and since then he's 1-1 after returning. He got grapple fucked by Okami, and basically that's his downfall in his career. He doesn't grapple well. You highlighted his last fight, which was Chad Priest, where he got a nice TKO win. That could be on the cards here. It could be a similar thing where Court Mcgee's pressing forward and Diego Lima catches him. But I agree with everything you said about Court Mcgee. He is one of the best conditioned guys at 170. His output, I think he's third highest for output at 170, like 6 strikes per minute or something like that. So, yeah, I'd agree with your whole breakdown there. I'd say Diego Lima's best chance of winning this fight would be round 1. And as the fight ticks on, I see Court Mcgee basically taking over. So yeah, I'm going to take a classic decision win for Court Mcgee. Okay. I see him being just, the pressure he puts on guys. And he's not the guy that will, blow you out of the water watching him. But I also agree with what you say about his losses. He isn't getting beat badly. And,
he's faced some good guys.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. So I'll take Court Mcgee via decision.
Yeah, and I think this may seem a little bit random, but I think that Diego Lima and Court Mcgee won in this fight. You'll be able to know which guy won his season of the Ultimate Fighter and which guy was a runner-up.
Yeah,
and I just think that Court does find the way to win. I think also that Diego's not going to be able to plant the way he did against Chad Laprise, because I think if he does, he gets pushed up against the fence and taken down. So he has a lot more to think about in this fight. Also, not necessarily a pink slip fight here for Lima. Maybe coming off of I think a win where he got a performance of the night with the knockout also. So maybe doesn't quite fight as desperate, but either way, I think Court Mcgee just a better fighter. We look at the odds here, and they open at -185 for Court, now at -170 for Court, +140 for Lima.
I'd agree with that. Spot on.
Yeah, I think that's about right. It could go even closer to one. I think the way it opened was fine. 185 plus 145 is, I think, perfect.
Yep, that's perfect. I agree. 100%.
It's good to see the odds makers start out well, and we start with an agreement. So you wanna?
Yes.
I'll move us on to this next fight. Let me
go ahead.
This fight is at 115 between Jody Esquibel and Angela Hill. And I think there's a couple things I'll say about this fight right off the bat. Neither one's very nice. First of which, this is a pink slip fight. Whoever loses this fight does not have a job in the UFC on Monday.
Yep.
Do you agree? Disagree?
100% agree with that.
Okay. Second, whoever wins this fight, I am almost certain loses their next fight unless it's against Hannah Cyphers.
Agree. Maybe. Most likely.
So let's move. All right. Now that I'm done with my quote-unquote disrespect of these two, let me break down Jodie Esquibel, the 5'1", 32-year-old fighting out of Jackson Winklejohn. So probably not have a good camp. 6-4 with 1 TKO. That's all of her finishes. The rest have been decisions. She's 0-2 in the UFC. She lost her debut to Carolina Kowalkiewicz, so by decision. She then followed that up with a loss to Jessica Aguilar. So not really seeing anything that really stands out about Jodie, to be honest. She seems really short. That stuck out to me like, wow, she's a very short person. She's kind of average all around. I think she dates a former UFC guy, but I don't know who it was.
That's notable. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I think maybe Keith Jardine's her boyfriend.
Okay.
So yeah, if you remember Keith Jardine, that guy was interesting. A lot more interesting than Jodie Esquibel. Decent boxing. She's got some so-so takedowns, but I think like most of Hill's opponents, she's not going to be looking to be in a kickboxing match. If she avoids that and mixes it up, she'll probably have some success. You'll be going into Angela Hill and her stellar record, but I just don't think Jodie is going to be successful in mixing it up, to be honest. So I'm going to take Angela Hill for a decision.
Nice.
Just she's going to be more athletic, quicker, and able to keep this on her feet, I think. Not looking forward to this fight.
Okay, so Angela Hill. If you don't count her Ultimate Fight fights, she's 1-6 inside the UFC. So, yeah, 1-6. So the fight she's lost.
Better than 0-2, technically.
Technically, well, kinda, but
0%.
Yeah. Okay. So the women she's lost to: Tisha Torres, Rose Namajunas, Jessica Andrade, Nina Anzarov, Courtney Casey, and Ronda Marcos. So, you know, the record is trash, right? And she's losing the same way pretty much. But the girls she's lost to are pretty decent, right? You know, even Nina Anzarov found a win streak in the UFC. So
yeah, she's gotten hot all of a sudden.
Yeah. Her win came over Marina Moroz. Now, if you remember that fight, Marina Moroz was lucky she was catching air for the majority of that fight and not Angela Hill's face. Because if she was catching her face a little more, Angela Hill would be 0-7 inside the UFC. So,
was that a split or was it unanimous for Angela?
I think it could have been a split. I remember it being very close.
Yeah.
So, you know, 1-6, she's fought, you know, very decent competition. I did take her against Ronda Marcos, and I like Marcos. She's a vet in women's MMA. I feel a bit silly for making that pick. But Angela Hill has, you know, fairly decent striking, but, you know, she's just getting beat by these better girls. Jodie Esquibel isn't impressive, primarily a boxer. So I'm expecting a kickboxing fight here. Like you said, she should mix it up. But I don't see her having success with the grappling. I mean, if she does, you know, Angela Hill is just... I'm going to have no words for Angela Hill, just like Antonina. But yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna take the woman who's 1-6 inside the octagon. I'm gonna take Angela Hill via decision.
Yeah, I mean, this is yeah. I think if this fight stays on the feet, I just think Angela's got to be able to win this one.
Surely.
Minus 235 favorite for Angela Hill.
Wow.
A minus 235 favorite for an individual who's 1-6 in the octagon.
I would honestly give Jodie Esquibel more chance of winning than I would have Roxanne Modafferi.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, this is I think that's totally fair. So,
Yeah, fair play. Okay, so moving on into the third one. What is the third one? Jim Miller versus Jason Gonzalez.
yep.
And I'll be breaking down the veteran, Jim Miller. Okay, so he's 18 wins now in the UFC, 11 losses. What can we say about Jim Miller? He's a veteran. He's pretty much seasoned everywhere in the game. He's a black belt. He has great wrestling. Uh, he'll welcome you into a firefight. He's happy to stand with you. Even at this point, his conditioning is very good. He's had a lot of fights, and at this point, he can still fight at the highest level. Should he? Probably not. Should he be retired? Probably. He's taken a lot of damage, and I just think this is, he's going to have good moments, and those moments being, Alex White most recently, even before the loss against the Bronx. He's going to have good moments. Against Dustin Poirier a couple of years ago, he done very well in that fight too. But when he's fighting guys who are quite a bit taller and quite a bit longer, it's going to look a little bit like what Dan Hooker done to him. So, Jason Gonzalez isn't exactly the most impressive guy, but he's quite long and big for lightweight. Obviously not like James Vick level, but I just see him being
He's
a bully in
close.
there. Yeah, he's big, man.
He's
big.
he's 6'2".
Yeah, he's a big guy for lightweight. And I just see him, despite the veteran experience Jim Miller has and how seasoned he is everywhere in his game, I just see Jason Gonzalez being bigger and just being a bully. If Jim can get it into the second and third round, maybe he takes over and wins a close decision. He could even submit Jason Gonzalez. But I just see Jason Gonzalez, finding a big shot. And Jim Miller's been hurt a lot, man. I will say Jason Gonzalez got beat up by Gregor Gillespie, but even when he was rocked and getting beat up, he found an uppercut that hurt Gillespie pretty bad. Gillespie shot right off the bat as soon as the uppercut landed. So Jason Gonzalez is going to be hungry getting back into the octagon. So I'm going to take Jason Gonzalez via TKO in round number 1.
Okay. So I will be breaking down Jason Nicolas Gonzalez, 29 years old. He is a 6'2", 155er. Fights out of Millennia MMA, which has some decent guys, and Lorenz Larkin, Cody Bollinger, Syed Awad, and Georgi Karkarian. He's a Bellator guy, but he's been pretty solid at 145 for a while and Awad at 155. So anyways, he's 11-4, 4 TKOs and 7 subs in those 11 wins. So all of 11 he's finished. He's also been finished in all 4 of his losses, choice by sub and choice by KO. So guy definitely is an action fighter and has shown some promise to me even in his losses. But he hasn't fought since losing to Gregor Gillespie by arm triangle in September of 2017. So I believe he got an injury he was dealing with, but I couldn't find exactly what kept him out. But he's still only 29, so he has really good size for the division, and he's definitely fighting a guy in Miller who's on the back end of his career, on the very back end of his career, I think. And so I definitely think this is an interesting fight, and I agree with you with Miller. I think he definitely could get the sub. And I also believe that Gonzalez can stop Miller by strikes. So I think one of those two things is going to happen in this fight. I don't exactly see it going to a decision. So I think it's whose game plan is able to be imposed. And I'm going to take Gonzalez by TKO as well, but I'm going to take a round 2 TKO.
Fair play. Nice.
So I think that this is one of the last fights for Jim, though. And I think I've said that in the last 1 or 2 breakdowns of him anyways. So not a hater here. I respect the guy.
I mean, we both took him against Alex White, right? I remember us both picking that. So,
Yep.
we respect him, and he really could get the win here. But, we love breaking down fights, and we look at both guys, the cases and the
Mhm.
credentials in this fight and where their career has been most recently. And, it's a really good fight, and either guy could win. But, yeah, I'm happy you agree with me on Jason Gonzalez.
Yeah, and he is the underdog at plus 130.
Wow.
So Jim Miller coming back minus 160. I love that price for
Yeah.
Gonzalez.
I mean,
So
I can kind of understand why he's a favorite.
Gonzalez has been out for almost 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I
So
understand why Jim's a favourite. Like I said, man, he is so seasoned everywhere in his game. He's been doing it a long time. He's a veteran. So
yeah.
massive respect for Jim Miller here, even more so than he got against Alex White. So
hmm Yeah.
interesting, nice.
Yeah, I think that will be a good one. But we agree for a third fight in a row here. So 3 for 3.
Yeah, let's keep it
And
going.
you
Not
can
for
go
too
ahead and
long.
move us in. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can go ahead and move us into this next fight.
Okay, so we have Gilbert Burns versus Mike Davis, which is Mike Davis taking the fight on short notice, but also Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns comes into this fight 7-3 inside the UFC now. I said that Murcia would be able to grapple with Burns and would even be better in the grappling department. I was proven wrong. He done very well in that fight. Gilbert Burns is a second-degree black belt. His stand-up game is fairly decent as well. He has heavy power in his hands. Even most recently, he had a grappling bout with Gleason Tebow. Got a choke within 5 minutes. He's been very impressive in the UFC. 7-3 is a decent record. He's fought good guys. Dan Hooker did knock him out, and it was brutal. But Dan Hooker was on a real streak, man, and he met his match. Edson Barboza done great in that fight. But Gilbert Burns, man, he is very well-rounded, man, and I see him, the right game plan here would be to take down Mike Davis and, actively look for a sub. If he isn't doing that, then I'm going to be, watching the fight even more intensely to see where it's going to end out. But I'm going to assume that's what Gilbert Burns does here. So I'm going to take a round 2 submission for Gilbert Burns. And I will say, Mike Davis had that fight on the Contender Series. I'm sure you'll mention. And I can't remember who was commentating in that fight. I watched it earlier, and they said either guy would be great for short notice. So, watch these Contender Series fights, because if someone needs an opponent short notice, it was written in the stars that Mike Davis would take this fight. So if he gets the win, there's some weird things going on with the universe and the connections to UFC, or whatever you believe in. But I'm going to take Gilbert Burns via submission in round 2.
Yeah. So Mike Davis, he was fighting Sadiq Youssef on that fight in the Contenders Series. And he was actually I believe a 3-1 favorite on Sadiq.
Uh-huh.
And he hung in there with Sadiq, but Sadiq definitely outshined him there.
Mm-hmm.
No shame there. But Mike Davis, he also was fighting at 145 for a lot of his career, so being able to step up on the short notice to 155 maybe helped a little bit. And he's not a small guy; he's 6 foot, so he's a decent sized guy for the division. He's 6-1 overall with 6 TKOs, and his one loss coming to Sadiq Youssef. However, the last 4 fighters he's fought have records of, let's see, his last win came over a guy who is now 8-9. And he won that fight. It took him 3 rounds to beat the guy who was 8-9. His win before that came over a guy who is, let's see, I believe, yes, 1-3. So his fight before that came over a guy who is 4-5, and his fight before that came over a guy who is 3-6.
Wow!
So that is the last 4 victories for Mike Davis. And what again was Gilbert Burns' record?
14-3 as a pro, 7-3 in the UFC.
Yeah. So not to do MMA math only, but a little bit what I saw from Mike Davis in a few of these fights, like against the 1-3 guy, he maybe because of the opponent, but he didn't look super active with his strikes. They were effective when they landed, and he was able to put away the guy. But for being what appears to be a predominantly stand-up fighter, I think that his volume is going to be an issue as he moves up into this higher competition here. And I do think Gilbert Burns can stand with him for a little bit. I think at any point he needs to take him down, he will. So my real question here, I'm definitely picking Gilbert. My real question is if he catches him in the first with one of those hard hooks, or if he ends up taking him down in the second and getting the submission. So I'm going to take the first round KO here over the newcomer, who I don't think has fit. I mean, the closest thing to this was Sadiq, who he was able to stay in there for 3 rounds, but there are a few times in that Sadiq fight where Sadiq almost, I think almost put him away anyways. And I think Gilbert hits much, much harder. Gilbert, again, is one of these jiu-jitsu guys who's really fallen in love with his stand-up, which at a certain point could be his downfall, but I just don't see it being here. So I'll take the first round TKO for Gilbert. No odds currently available because it's a short notice fight. But I could imagine Gilbert being -3.
Yeah, I mean, 250, 220, maybe. But yeah, you'd expect Burns to be the favorite there, surely.
Yeah, I think he'll be a pretty heavy. I mean, putting Mike Davis at only a +175 or so, I think he'll be at least a +200.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So
fair play.
So yeah, we'll move on to the next fight, and this is at 115 between Verna Jandiroba and Carla Esparza. I will be breaking down Verna, who is making her UFC debut here, 14-0, 11 submissions. So makes it a little bit easier to kind of figure out what her game plan is. Appears to be to grapple. And she's faced some decent competition over in Invicta. So I definitely think that will make her well prepared for this fight against Esparza, who back in the day was in Invicta as well. So came from the same organization. And definitely with Verna, her striking is pretty rudimentary, to be kind. And what it allows her to do is get the fight to where she wants to get it, which is on the ground. I think that against Carla, she may be facing a bigger, stronger grappler, however. And I think one way or another, I think we see one of these girls on top. If either has even solid stand-up on the night of the fight, that will be the difference. So if I just can't quite go against Carla here, I want to, but I'm not going to. So I'll take Carla by decision.
Nice. Okay, so Carla Esparza comes into this fight 3 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. That doesn't include her Ultimate Fighter fights, obviously. Not the best record, but it's decent enough. She's only ever fought great competition, I will say. Even outside of the UFC, it's a name you've heard, a name you respect. So yeah, looking at her opponent, previously fighting in Invicta, I did watch her 3 fights in Invicta. There's not really too much to go off. She does appear a step down from her original opponent, which was Livia Souza. But yeah, she just looks quite slow. She is looking to grapple, like you said. Unlucky for her, Carla Esparza is a great wrestler, a very good grappler. And even her stand-up is improving still. She was close to finishing another grappler who's Claudia Gadela. She was close to finishing her on the feet with strikes. So Carla Esparza is still growing, and she's a great wrestler, a very good grappler. We saw Tatiana Suarez absolutely manhandle Carla, but me and you both agree Tatiana could potentially be 4 division champ which sounds crazy for if you're listening to this channel and you're trying to get into MMA betting and you're trying to grow with your knowledge and you don't really know who Tatiana Suarez is. Trust me, you're gonna know who that girl is. And for some listeners, the most part of the listeners, you were already agreeing with me at this point. Some people who know who Tatiana is obviously will be like, come on, 4 division. But she's got massive potential, that girl. Carla, she tried in that fight, but that girl is amazing. So in this fight, I do give the edge to Carla. I pretty much agree with everything you said. And I'm going to take a submission for Carla in round number 3.
All right, fair enough. No odds for this one as of yet, from what I can see. So I think it will be pretty close, but I think it will be slightly to Carla.
Yeah, it should be.
So
I mean, I'd be surprised if Carla wasn't at least a minus 150. If you're getting less than minus 150, then take that straight away.
Okay, you want to move us on to the next one at heavyweight?
Yes, this is a interesting fight. We have Andre Arlovski versus Augusto Sakai. Sakai?
Yep.
So Arlovski comes into this fight now. 16 wins in the UFC, 12 losses. He has 2 wins in his last 10 UFC fights. He began fighting professionally in 1999. Former heavyweight champion, and he's still here. He's still fighting at the highest level of MMA at 40 years old. I have gone back and watched the last few fights he's had. I've watched a lot of tape today and yesterday. I must have watched at least 10 hours of tape, at least. And I will say, he's losing these fights recently, but he's not losing by a big margin. He's just getting edged out in these fights. And I don't wanna make picks against Arlovski because it's.
I mean,
Arlovski.
We're not talking about the Ngannou fight, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the in his last 10, he's lost 8 of them. You look at some of them, and obviously with Ngannou. And a couple others, it's bad. But you look at the Shamil one, the Walt Harris one, the Tai Tavaza one, and you can see how he's just getting edged out. So I can see how he's still here. But, 2 wins in your last 10 is not acceptable. You realistically should be cut. And I can only say this is another pink slip fight. You have to be cut if you don't win this. And we don't know.
From Arlovski's standpoint, not Sakai's, obviously.
Yeah. Arlovski, we don't even know. This could be one of those cases where it's his last fight in the contract and it's not getting renewed regardless of the result. Because that happens sometimes. But like I said, I don't want to pick against Arlovski because it's Arlovski. I did that recently with Hannah Cyphers and it bit me. I've really, really looked at this fight. I've looked at how he's been losing. And I've looked at how Augusto's winning. I looked at his debut intensely. And I've noticed here that Arlovski is definitely going to have... he's going to be the smaller guy here, is what I'm trying to say. Augusto's going to be at least 30 pounds heavier in this fight.
He cuts to 265.
He cuts to 265. Arlovski usually weighs in between 40 and 50, so he's going to be at least 30 pounds heavier. He's a veteran. He's seen it all before. He has experience, far more experience than Augusto. I think he's able to move and make Augusto work harder than he wants to, harder than he did in his debut against Chase Sherman. And you know what? I said it last pod. I said it the pod before that. I'm done picking Arlovski, but I'm going to give him the respect, man. I'm going to give him one more chance to prove to me he can win this fight. I'm going to take Arlovski in a typical, most recent decision, but I'm going to give him the nod this time. I think he wins it.
Okay. I will be breaking down Augusto Sakai, Dana White Contender Series winners, to take a shot of that apple juice. He's 1-0 after his third round TKO of Chase Sherman, 12-1 overall, 10K KOs in those 12 wins. So tends to finish. And one thing I've really appreciated, and if you've listened before, you may know what I'm going to say, but probably not, actually. Never mind, you have no idea what I'm going to say. But what I am going to say is that he has several third-round finishes on his record here. And I like to see that, especially out of a heavyweight. It shows they know how to pace themselves a little bit, especially being a big heavyweight who cuts to 265 to still be able to have some decent movement and good cardio and be able to carry the power, not just through the first round, but throughout the fight, is a huge positive to me. His one loss was to Czech Congo in Bellator, and it was by decision. So Czech Congo has looked really well outside of the UFC. He's been a much stronger fighter for the most part.
That was a split too, so that was very close.
It was a close one. And Sakai into the third round carries power. Arlovski has now been knocked out 12 times in his career. Mm-hmm. So it's at a point where anybody hits in the right, it is heavyweight, so anybody gets hit the right spot, it can be over. But particularly when you have that amount of KOs, and one fight he didn't get a KO in was against Rumble Johnson, where Rumble Johnson shattered his jaw in the first round. So, yet he stayed in the fight. So Arlovski is tough as all hell. There's no doubt there, and there's no disrespect in me not picking him in this fight. But
it's a very legit fight to disagree first on this card.
Don't agree. I think that I'll give him the respect of making it to a decision, but I'm going to give the decision to Sakai.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. That's fair. And the odds?
Yeah, and the odds on this one are it's a closer one. Arlovski is the slight underdog at plus 115.
That's nice to hear.
Sakai coming back at minus 145. I could see that shifting before fight night. But if anything, I think it could shift more to Sakai.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
I think a lot. I don't see Arlovski being the favorite. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I'm happy he's just a slight dog at this point, because I've really gone back and watched those most recent fights of his, and I watched Sakai. He doesn't implement a jab too much. What he does throw is a lot of hooks and a lot of overhands. And it goes into what you're saying with Arlovski and how many times he's been crushed. So one of those hooks or overhands connects early on. It could be horrible, but I just think he can. I don't know, man. I think he's going to be better conditioned and make him work. But it's fair play that we disagree there, because I'm obviously not confident on Arlovski. I wouldn't be confident on Augusto, because we see Arlovski get those wins against Nappy Boy and against Stefan Struve, one of your favourites. Yep. So he's still there, and even in his losses, he's just getting edged out. But fair disagreement.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we're moving on to 170, and this is between Killer B, Ben Saunders, and Taikashi Sato.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I had the name right there. I will be breaking down Killer B, now 36 years old, fighting out of ATT in 10th Planet. 22-11 overall, 11 TKOs, 6 subs, and 7 of his own losses are coming by TKO. So he's lost 4 of 5 in the octagon, and his only win being over a nearly finished Jake Ellenberger. Mm-hmm. So we haven't seen Ben since he got pretty brutally KO'd by Lyman Good in November of this past year.
Yeah.
2008 was rough for Ben. He was stopped 3 times, and he's certainly hoping for a smoother 2019, I'd say. Mm-hmm. You never want to be stopped 3 times by TKO, by the way, in all 3 of those fights. And he also had another loss in 2018. So he lost 4 times, in 3 of which he was stopped pretty harshly. Mm-hmm. I don't know Lava's opponent. He appears to be pretty capable of finishing on the feet. And at this point, I'm not sure about Ben's durability. Ben, I think, is fighting for his job. So I think this is the 3rd potential pink slip fight on the card with a loss. So that is one thing. But It takes more than just will in there. And he does have some decent skills as well, but it appears Sato does as well, particularly on the feet. So I'm going to take a first-round TKO for Sato. I hate to say, I kind of think Ben is done.
Fair play. Okay, so Takashi Sato. He's 14-2 as a pro. I'll be completely honest, I don't know a lot about this guy. I haven't seen much of his fights. What I do know is I believe he's a kickboxer, and apparently he's the #1 Japanese welterweight out there. So that's all I really know. I haven't seen much tape. But what I do know is Ben Saunders has great jiu-jitsu. And if this #1 welterweight Japanese guy, who I don't know much about, if he gives Ben Saunders space to work with, Ben will feel more than comfortable enough to win a decision. If there's a clinch, we saw how good Ben is with his knees, his elbows. Lyman Good did finish him in the clinch when Ben was throwing all of those tinies. Lyman Good was just eating him and then just finished him with a big uppercut. Like I said, I don't know much about the opponent.
Nor do I.
You really could be right with Ben Saunders is done, but I learnt most recently that he decided he wanted to be a UFC fighter at 10 years old. So, I'm going to give him respect here. I don't know the opponent. I'm going to give him respect. I'm going to take Killer B Ben Saunders, and I'm going to take it in round 1 too. I'm going to take a round 1 submission all the way from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Eddie Bravo style. So I'm going to take Ben Saunders submission round 1.
Okay. Well, this is our second straight disagreement. You have the underdog here at plus 165. Sato coming back minus 190.
Well, I will say, if anyone who's listening knows a lot about Sato or has seen a lot of his fights, because, you're listening to this breakdown, getting our opinions, and I'm kind of asking for your opinion now. If you know a lot about Saunders' opponent, smack a comment down and inform me, because it's been hard trying to find out information on that guy. Japan and that. Crazy.
Yeah.
Fair play.
So
moving on to one of your favorite up-and-coming guys, Roosevelt Roberts versus, who's he facing here? Thomas Gifford. And I'll be breaking down, who am I breaking down here? Roosevelt Roberts.
It's totally up to you. Chico! I apologize for the background noise, everybody.
Chico got happy, man. Okay.
Yeah, he gets excited for these up-and-comers. He's a fan of Roosevelt as well.
Yeah, he's a legit guy, man. Okay, so he comes into this fight, I believe, officially making his debut. Unless you count the Ultimate Fighter finale as a debut, then I guess this is his second fight in the UFC. He did fight on the Contender Series, got a nice rear naked choke, made good work there. In his, debut, if you count it as the debut, which would be against Daryl Horcher, just really, really impressive. Just watching that fight again earlier today, Roosevelt Roberts really reads his opponents on the feet. You can see him intensely reading his opponent. And that standing guillotine that he got Horcher in, where Horcher just ends up on the fence like a spider, was just crazy.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this Roosevelt Roberts guy, he looks,
special.
He looks a real prospect, man. He's tall, he's long, his IQ seems great from what I've seen so far. I did watch his opponent. I've seen some tape. Not too impressed. I'm not exactly disappointed. He seems like a guy who's worth a call up. 17-7. Didn't look great. Didn't look terrible. It's a fun fight. But I'm going to take Roosevelt Roberts via submission in round number 2.
All right. I'll break down Thomas the Young Lion Gifford, 6'1", 155er, so another good size. Both these guys facing off, I think, should be able to match up frame-wise. So he's 14-7 overall, 2 TKOs and 12 submissions, and his 14 wins. He's 6-1-1 since August of 2014. So a lot of his losses came pretty early on. He has a sub loss to Tony Martin on there. He's got really long hair now, so that I think could, get some people a little bit interested in him, and also, some casual fans maybe seeing this big white dude with cornrows coming in there. So he trained briefly at Team Alpha Male, where he was really trying to work on his wrestling more. But he stated he likes staying in Arkansas, so he doesn't like to really branch out, and he stays in Arkansas for the most part. He did train for this camp at Factory X, so that's where Devontae Smith and others trained. So he's getting some good runs in with some athletic guys at 155, but Gifford is pretty hittable at times out there, even though he does claim that he likes to rely on his stand-up more. And I think one thing Roosevelt will need to be cautious of if he chooses to take him down is keeping his neck out of there, because Gifford does appear to have a pretty legit squeeze with his guillotine. He's got long legs, but I think those are right for leg kicks. So I could see Roosevelt really taking a lot of leg kicks in this, or hitting Gifford with a lot of leg kicks in this fight. I won't make it a secret. I'm taking Roosevelt here. Huge fan of this guy. I think he has all the potential in the world. And I look for him to take a methodical approach here. I think Gifford's going to try to get in there and mix it up right away, make this high pace, high intensity fight. I just don't think he'll be athletic enough to keep up with Roosevelt and or smart enough. Roosevelt has a real combo of skills here, and I think Gifford is crafty. But I don't see him being able to survive Roosevelt. And did you say a round 2 submission?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with it. Round 2 submission for Roosevelt.
Nice.
For me as well. So I think this could be an exciting one while it lasts, but this Roosevelt guy is the real deal.
Yeah.
And I think he'll show it here. So Roosevelt is a minus 350 favorite. Gifford plus 265, plus 285 on some sites.
It's fair to say there's a hype train. It's fair to say at this point with those odds,
Yeah,
we
that's
watched
a second
Gifford.
straight fight.
He's not too bad, man. He's pretty decent.
Not at all.
So yeah, there's a hype train on Roberts.
Yeah, Roberts is getting the minus 350 treatment, and I think both his fights so far in the UFC.
Yeah,
I believe that was about what he was against Daryl Horchard.
Yeah, he just looks so intelligent, man. He just looks like he reads his opponent and
athletic. I mean, he is the total package.
Looks great, man. Okay, so moving on to 135. We have John Lineker versus Corey Sandhagen, and I'll be breaking down Corey. Comes into this fight 3-0 inside the UFC. I was at his debut, which was in North Carolina, which was at 145 against Austin Arnett, and he was just brilliant. He was so brilliant. I know we can laugh at even most recently with Austin Arnett with the what he did at the finish, the end of that fight. It was pretty laughable. But,
who was he fighting? Who was that?
Shane Young, was it?
Oh yeah, Shane Young just connected at the end of a dominant decision, and he yelled as he got.
Yeah,
that
was hilarious. It's even more funny that his dad was in his corner, because it's like, of course that was going to happen. Like, of course he was going to be angry that he got dropped.
His dad definitely gave him the nickname Golden Boy.
Okay.
It's just sad. Anyways, back. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's what Austin does, man. So Sandhagen, he's dropped down to 135. He's gone 2-0 at 135. And do you know what? I'm just going to say it now. I'm on the Corey Sandhagen train. And most of you who just heard that said, what train? Honestly, man, I really believe in this guy. He has a special, unique style. His combinations are beautiful. His grappling already looks good enough. He's the type of guy that will go calf, body, and head in the same combination. Like, just go watch his debut. Just go watch his last fight. And I know, you're looking at his opponents. Even Yuri Alcantara, man, that's like a decent win. And he was close to being put in some sort of submission, I believe an armbar. That
Armbar.
he was refusing, man. The kid has so much heart, so much confidence, and he just looks good, man. He kind of reminded me of Dom Cruz. Now, most people hearing that once again are just, you laughed at my train comment, you maybe laughed at that. But just go watch his fights with the knowledge that I think he looks a little like Dom Cruz. And you'll see it. I promise you will see it. So in this fight, he's fighting, this is the biggest fight of his career, John Lineker, a great guy at 135. I will say, Sandhagen is 5'11". He's going to have 8 inches in height on Lineker. And he's going to have 8 inches of reach on Lineker. I believe this is the start of people seeing that thing again where a guy is fighting out of his weight class. We've seen it before, Conor McGregor, Darren Till. I really believe in Corey Sandhagen. I think he's long, he's big, his stand-up, it just looks great. It looks great. John Lineker has great power, and if he's able to close the distance and use his boxing, we could see Corey get knocked out, of course. Anything can happen. But I'm going to pick Corey Sandhagen, man. I believe in him. I think he's great. His stand-up looks great. His combination's great. And I'm going to take him to get his 3rd win at bantamweight. And I'm going to take a round 2 TKO for Corey Sandhagen.
Okay. Well, that was quite the sell job of Corey Sandhagen. And I know you believe in all that too. I'm not meaning to discount.
I really do, man.
I will be breaking down Mr. John Lineker, 31-8 with 14 TKOs and 4 submissions, training out of American Top Team. So he won't have to go too far from Coconut Creek. I imagine Coconut Creek and Sunrise, Florida are near each other. Seems like they would be, but I don't know. There's a lot of weird names in Florida. If you're from Florida, comment below and I apologize to you. So, anyways, he's 12-3 in the UFC, has some wins over guys like Kelleher, Chito Vera, and Dodson, McDonald, Michael McDonald, Rob Font, amongst others. So, dude just kind of bangs. Since moving to 135, I feel like it's really solved his cardio issue. That kind of held him back a little at 125. He's been able to carry his power throughout fights, which is why he was able to pull off a 3rd round KO in the 3rd round in his last fight. I think this is a really great fight here. I think that Sandhagen has shown a little bit of a habit to take a little bit too many shots, and I think that in a fight like this, he's going to be much more defensive, have his shell more up, I think, because I just don't think you can take those shots over and over again from Lineker. And I mean, I think Lineker is going to be firing overhand shots all night long, trying to connect on the 5'11". Sandhagen, question of if he does or not, but I think he will. So I'll take Lineker to get a 2nd round TKO, with I think taking a little more of a measured approach actually in this one than I think some people may be expecting, and kind of pacing himself a little in the 1st round, but I think 2nd round he unleashes it a little bit more, but still I think he takes a more measured striking approach. 5'11" to 5'3" is definitely notable, and but I'm just gonna think Lineker's been training with some bigger guys and prepared for this. So,
well, I will say with that last comment you just made, I found out recently today that Corey Sandhagen sometimes spars with Curtis Blades. So finding that information out made me very happy, and it just goes along with his style and how confident he looks in these fights. But fair play for taking Lineker. I'll be excited to hear the odds on this one because I'm really behind Corey Sandhagen, man.
Yeah. So that was your way of asking me for the odds.
Yes.
And Sandhagen is the slight underdog.
Yeah,
plus
buddy.
120. Plus 120.
Oh, that's
Lineker minus 150. So Sandhagen getting some respect here, plus 110 on some sites. So
that's nice, man. That's nice. I feel
yep.
like, you made the comment earlier about who did you say it would shift towards? You said Augusto, right? I feel like maybe this one's going to shift towards Corey, and I really hope it does. But yeah, that's the third disagreement, and that's a legit disagreement, man, because I really like John Lineker as well. So that's fair play.
Yep, so third straight, so we should each put in a parlay with those three, and we'll both be wrong because we're going to go 2 out of 3 on those 3 fights.
Yeah, well, someone's going to be wrong there. People listening out, look at those last 3 and try work out the pattern for those 3.
Yep, exactly. I would avoid putting all 3 of those in one if you're.
Oh no, it's 3 of the last 4 because we agree on Roberts, right?
Oh yeah, of course we agree on.
Okay,
it's 3 or 4. You're right. Sorry about that. I'm a little slow sometimes.
We both high out in here. Okay, so moving on to Glover Teixeira versus Ion Cutelaba, and I'll be breaking down the monster. Both guys are monsters, but I'll take Cutelaba. Yeah. Comes into this fight 3-2 inside the UFC, and if you go back and watch his fights, he's a powerful puncher. He's looking to, from the moment the ref says fight, he's looking to literally walk towards his opponent and trade until someone is done. He's the type of guy who doesn't want to stand in front of you, be technical, try and read you. He's looking to go there, come into the fight, and fight you. Glover Teixeira also has heavy hands. I'd assume the best game plan for Glover would be shoot for the takedown, submit him. We saw Roberson fight Glover, and Glover took him down and submitted him. So I'm assuming that would be the best game plan for him. But I just don't know if he's going to continue to do that, man, because he does like to stand and trade with his opponents. He's even submitted Misha Serkinov. So, I could really be, hoping for, he doesn't go for the takedown. But, it seems like he is going to shoot for a takedown and submit Cutelaba. But I really like Cutelaba, man. He's strong. He's a powerful puncher. He did stop Antigulov when he was taken down. He was able to get back to his feet a couple times and still find a TKO. He has got a harder fight in Glover Teixeira. But
we saw how Antigulov responds to getting hit in his last fight.
Yeah, well, just for anyone who doesn't know, I watch UFC every weekend with my girlfriend. She's American. It's hilarious to watch it with her. She said when Antigulov got TKO, she said that guy just got hit by a feather. So, yeah.
I don't like that disrespect for Lord Juicer, which is a potential UFC addicts bandwagon slowly brewing up for Lord Juicer.
Yeah, so, that was you picked Lord Juicer, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't pick Lord Juicer, man. So
yeah, how dare you? We forgive you over here on the bandwagon.
Yeah, so sorry, Lord Juicer, but yeah, I'm gonna take Cutelaba round 1 TKO. I think it's over in round 1, regardless of who wins. Goodness. So I'm gonna take Cutelaba round 1 TKO.
Okay, I'm shocked by that.
It's going to be 4. Okay.
I'm shocked. Yeah. Glover Teixeira, 39 years old now, so he's getting up there, a little long in the tooth, but 205, that's okay. You can still fight. 28-7 overall, 17 TKOs, 7 submissions. He's 11-5 in the UFC. He's coming off a first-round arm triangle of Carl Roberson on short notice. He has alternated wins and losses since in his last 7 since 2016. So he's coming off a win here. So if he's sticking to his pattern, he'll get a loss if you're going with that. But the guys he was stopped by were Gus and Rumble. So those are his 2 TKOs. So there's no real shame in either of those losses, honestly. Glover's got some real solid stand-up, good wrestling and jiu-jitsu. He's crafty and tough still, especially when he's not facing the upper echelon of the division. He really looks good. So, I mean, you can say that about a lot of guys, but I think Glover's the epitome of a gatekeeper. So I think Cutelaba is the level of fighter Glover still beats at this point. Probably about the ceiling of the level of fighter Glover can beat at this point. But I do think he is able to wear out Jan, survive a little bit of a crazy first round maybe, and able by the second round to wear him out and get a submission. So I'll take Glover by second round submission here. I think Jan's going to just be too aggressive, get taken down once he's worn out and submitted.
Yep, legit disagreement, man. And when I say legit disagreement, I mean I feel my case was legit and your case is also legit. Both guys can win this fight. It's a winnable fight for either guy. And the odds?
Yeah, this is what, 4 or 5 we've been wrong on now?
4.
Or that we've disagreed on? Sorry.
4.
Yeah, I don't see either one. I would not be shocked if we split those disagreements there.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is a sign of a good card. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Legit disagreement. The odds are with Cutelaba.
Oh, nice.
Minus 170.
Oh, that's a little deep. I may have to get in on that one straight after the pod.
Plus 140 for Teixeira.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
well, enjoy that. I mean, stick that in a little double, and if you're wrong, you're wrong. But that's good odds.
Yeah, I'm gonna live with this one. I don't understand that. I'm not meaning to be dramatic here, but I'm shocked by those odds actually. So, okay. Well, let's move on to 170 between Cowboy Alex Oliveira and Platinum Mike Perry. I will be breaking down Cowboy. He is 19-6-1. He's 9-4-1 in the UFC, coming off a pretty brutal fight with Nelson, which ended up with him being on the short end of the grappling and getting subbed. Obviously, this fight I see being a very different type of fight for Oliveira. With a win by guillotine against Condit, wins over Means and LaFerre being his other best wins. I think Cowboy Oliveira always puts on a good fight. I think he is deserving of the nickname of Cowboy in MMA. I think he really has had some crazy fights. The fight with the Yancy Medeiros was amazing. He's strong. He's a really strong guy and definitely tough. Has decent pop on his stand-up. He showed that against Pedasoli when he finished in 40 seconds. I'm not sure if he gets a finish on Perry, but I see this one being bloody. I like Cowboy to use his wrestling and get a decision and move up 170. Perry really needs this fight. I'm not. You'll go over his record, but I know that he's been struggling a little bit here. So I think this is his last fight on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. So he needs a win. So all things considered, I'm still going to take Cowboy Oliveira. I just think he's going to out-grapple him, and can hold his own on his feet too. But I see him using his grappling and wrestling. So I'll take Oliveira.
Nice. Okay, so Mike Perry, 5-4 is his record now in the UFC.
I'm surprised it's that good.
Yeah, he's a brawler who isn't exactly getting better anywhere else in his game. His grappling isn't improving. His ground game isn't improving. He's basically the same guy that made his debut. He's looking to walk you down in stalk mode, and he's looking to find a big shot. We've seen the way he's beaten. Max Griffin was able to move. He was much quicker at moving. Just circled all fight. Then we see Cowboy took him. Actually, Mike Perry actually chose to take down the Cowboy, but Mike Perry isn't exactly evolving. He's the same guy who's looking to knock you out. And when it works, I think we could all agree it's beautiful to watch. When it doesn't work, we've seen what it looks like. Mike Perry gets beat up. So there is no in the middle with Mike Perry. He either, we're all going, wow, look at that. Or we're all going, Mike Perry is getting beat up. Yeah, so we've disagreed 4 times. We've found an agreement again.
There we
And I
go.
have considered all things like you with Mike Perry. This could be his last fight. Probably
Mhm.
not, because when it does go well, it's very entertaining for, pretty much everyone to see when he finds that big shot, man. It's
Yeah,
devastating.
and I do think that with it being against a guy like Alex Oliveira, I wouldn't think if this was his job on the line or his contract on the line, they'd put
Hmm.
him in such a tough matchup.
Yeah.
I would think they'd put him against, somebody like a Ben Saunders maybe, and they're like, well, if you lose to or can't finish Ben Saunders, what do we have here? Instead, they put him on the main card against a relevant guy in Oliveira. So
Mm.
maybe I'm actually wrong on that, just judging from the matchmaking.
Yeah, I think he may have been scheduled to fight Ben Saunders, and it got changed. But I'm probably just talking absolute rubbish. But
Yeah, there's a lot of fights. The odds are with Oliveira at minus 190. I'm seeing minus 205 on Bovada, plus 165 for Mike Perry.
yeah, those odds are
So he's getting,
perfect. I
yeah.
basically agree with you. I think Oliveira's gonna look to grapple, and one thing I would say is he actively chose to grapple with Gunnar Nelson. So to say, he won't grapple here would be stupid. You're definitely looking to grapple with Mike Perry. So
Yeah.
yeah, I see him finishing. I see him finishing with ground and pound. You're taking a decision, but we agree again.
I could actually see a submission, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways, I think that's a pretty exciting fight. And we're on to
the
our
co-main.
co-main event of the evening, obviously, between Greg, the 0-1 Greg Hardy, and I believe the 0-2 making his long-awaited return to the UFC, Dmitry, the lifeguard Smolyakov. I will be breaking down the lifeguard.
Didn't he know Russia was last week?
Yeah, I mean, he missed his flight, and so he arrived in Sunrise, Florida, instead. I'm sure they're basically the same place.
Yeah, maybe.
So Dimitri, the lifeguard, 9-2 overall with 4 TKOs and 5 subs, and his 9 wins. So he finishes fights. And he went 0-2 in his first stint in the UFC. One of the losses came in 2 minutes where he was flattened, but it's heavyweight. But it was against Cyril Asker.
Absolutely
So
flattened, mate, by Cyril Asker.
that's troubling. That is troubling. I think if the matchmakers could, they are just begging for a Greg Hardy knockout. They're
Hmm.
begging it. They just need it to happen. And I gotta think if Dimitri has any MMA IQ, he looks to grab and take down Greg Hardy immediately and test his grappling.
Hmm.
If he doesn't and he gets caught recklessly, if he doesn't do that and he gets caught, I have no sympathy for the guy. If he doesn't and he gets caught going recklessly in for a takedown, I think that's definitely Greg Hardy's chance to get it. I'll take Greg to get a second round TKO after defending some takedowns in round 1 and causing the lifeguard to gas himself. I think this is a joke of a co-main event, and I just hope that no one gets DQ'd.
Okay, so Greg Hardy, the rank 117th heavyweight versus the rank 165th heavyweight. Greg Hardy 0-1 inside the UFC, disqualified against Crowder. You basically nailed it with his opponent Dimitri 0-2. He had got flattened out by Cyril Asker. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful there, but Cyril Asker,
That's
man,
terrible,
you get
man. Come on.
flattened out by Cyril Asker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
That earns you a co-main event spot.
yeah, like Greg Hardy is, from what we've seen in the Contender Series, from what we saw in against Crowder, he's powerful and he's fairly accurate and quite technical with that power. I don't want him to get disqualified again. Obviously, if that does happen, I suggest he goes and fights in yards like Masvidal did back in the day. there's no excuses now for getting disqualified. I know you're early into your MMA career, but if you don't know the rules, and you're given the rules before every fight, so I don't want to see that again. I agree with what you said about Dimitri. He needs to look for a takedown, but I don't see it happening, mate. I see Greg Hardy getting a round 1 TKO, and I'm just hoping there's not a DQ. So yeah, Greg Hardy, round 1 TKO.
Okay, yeah. So we agree. Just it's different round, but same method. Minus 270 for Greg Hardy. I won't be putting any bets on Greg Hardy. Sorry.
Yeah, mate. I'm just going to finish him with TKO. I'm not going to take him outright or sub or decision. 100%. Greg Hardy wins and only wins these fights by TKO.
Yeah, and so plus 230 for Smolyakov. So if you're feeling froggy, go ahead and jump with that. I don't mind.
Yeah, fair play.
But we are moving on to our main event of the evening, and it takes place at 185. A little bit short notice. Originally, it was supposed to be Jacare Romero 2. It is now Jacare versus Jack Hermansson. I'll let you lead it off with the Joker.
Yes. Okay, so Jacare versus Hermansson. I did say most recently to you and one of our other friends, I said if Romero's out and Paulo Costa can't, take the fight, the only reasonable solution here is Jack Hermansson, and that's exactly what we're seeing right here. So, I'm really excited that he's getting another big opportunity. If you listen to the podcast most recently where he fought David Branch a few days ago, I said he'd absolutely thrive under the co-main spot, and he did exactly that. He's a ground and pound specialist. He just has so much heart to win these fights. Even against Leyton, I said this the other day, against Leyton, he dislocated his knee in round number 1. And he went on to win that fight in round 3, I believe. So, this guy is he's becoming the next big thing from Sweden. Gus, he just couldn't take the title from Jones. And Latifi, he can't do it. He's not really progressing further in the light heavyweight division. I believe Sweden's next best thing is Jack Hermansson. I really do. He's a very special guy. And I'm so happy that he's getting this opportunity now to fight, even a bigger step up from David Branch. I'm fully on the Hermansson train. I think he's great. His ground and pound is great. I like it when guys talk highly about themselves. We have different varieties of how guys speak about themselves. We have Colby Colverton and how he speaks, and then we have Jack Hermansson who will go ahead and say, I have the best ground and pound, Habib has the second best ground and pound, and since then he said nothing. He really believes it. He really believes in himself, man, and I can see it. You only have to look into this guy's eyes. The fight itself, I would say, obviously Jacare is great, and, that first 5 minutes, it is, it's going to be a tough time. But we've seen Jacare after round 1. We see how slow he is. We even saw in the Chris Weidman fight, Jacare really does slow down. We saw it with Gastelum too. For as long as this fight goes, it goes more towards Hermansson for me. And I just think he wants this so bad. Jacare, he's getting older. And I just think Jack Hermansson is just hungry for this. I think he takes the Gator to deep waters and finishes him there. You see what I did there?
I did.
Yeah?
That was very punny.
Yeah, so I'm going to take Jack Hermansson to thrive once again in a main event spot this time. I'm going to take Hermansson via TKO ground and pound in round number 4.
Okay. Ray Charles saw what you did there.
Yeah.
So Ronaldo Jacare Souza, 39 years old. He is 26-6. With 8 TKOs and 14 submissions in his 26 wins. He's 9-3 in the UFC, and he's not fought since his third round TKO of Weidman in a fight that he definitely was having his struggles in. Jacare is an absolute grappling master who has really improved his power and his stand-up later in his career, and it's made him much more dangerous for sure. He was fighting well against Gastelum before he completely gassed. So that's definitely on my mind here in a 5-round main event. Against Weidman, he did lose the first 2 rounds and come out in the 3rd round and just kind of plod forward, and it ended up catching him with a hook, and it worked. But he kind of looked gassed in that one too, so it's still a question for me. And he's facing a guy in Hermansson who I don't think will gas in a 5-round fight. This is his first 5-round fight, I believe, but
yep.
He did have 5-round fights in Cage Warriors, but that's a long time ago. But he's looked really dangerous, Hermansson. And Jacare needs to get this fight to the ground and try to submit him. I definitely think that while Hermansson's submitted a few really good grapplers in his last 2 in Mearshart and Branch, I think Jacare is another level, and I don't think he looks to. I think he looks to avoid the ground for the most part. Although I think that Hermansson can get on top of Jacare. I don't think Jacare's bottom game is as dangerous, but Jacare on top is definitely very dangerous. So I think early on, Jacare can win this. I think the first 2 rounds are Jacare's, where Jacare is going to really try to win this fight and could very well be successful. But I think Hermansson's dangerous early and through the later rounds. I think Hermansson can win a decision as well. But I actually agree with you. I'm going to take Hermansson, and I'm going to take Hermansson to get the stop, and I'll take in the 5th round.
5th, nice. So, deep waters for the Gator.
I'm going to take, yeah, exactly. I'm going to think of some ocean pun to say here. But yeah, I'll take the Joker, and I will be taking an underdog with you. And he opened Jack Hermansson opened at -200. Souza at +160. It is now almost flipped to -190 for Jacare, +155 for Hermansson.
That's great.
So
I'll take that. Yeah, we're gonna see the underdog train start again, and I'm happy it's with Hermansson.
Yeah, Hermansson beat David Branch in about a minute. Less than a month ago. Less than a minute. Took no damage. I think against Souza, Souza was preparing for a guy in Romero who I'm not saying that he was going to count on this, but definitely was taking into account a guy who had similar cardio issues to him, maybe. So that's not the case with Hermansson. Hermansson is not huge for the division. As a result, doesn't have huge weight cuts. He will be in good shape because he'll just be coming off his fight camp for Branch, and he's looked better and better here. So I'm comfortable taking the underdog here in the main event, and we agree. And this is a really surprisingly good card. At first glance, kind of shrugging my shoulders a little bit, I did, but as I look deeper and deeper into this card, I think it's a really good one. My fight of the night is going to be Lineker and Sandhagen.
We agree on the fight of the night. I was about to ask you. I agree, man. Nice.
So, cool. I think Roosevelt Roberts gets another performance of the night bonus, and I think Hermansson takes the other one. So,
you pretty much agree with that. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there too.
Well, lovely. Just we did have 4 disagreements, I believe, on this card.
Yeah, that seems fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm not that too many people even care. I hardly even care, but I believe I'm like 10 back.
Yeah, I'm winning on the overall points right now. You're going to have to work hard in 2019, man. I'm on a roll.
It's okay, but anyways, enjoy the fights, everybody. Thank you for the comments, regardless of what they're about. Hopefully the background noise was better this week. Hopefully people felt that our throats were clear. Lighters were not being flicked. Hopefully I was a little bit quicker. Although me saying all these things pretty much is asking for me to have someone comment otherwise. But either way, we love doing these, and we appreciate all the listens. We appreciate the comments, even the comments that we don't appreciate. So enjoy the fights, everybody, and don't forget to enter the breakdown or what is it, giveaway? Yeah, don't forget to enter the giveaway. Also, we're always chatting up in the comments, so if you have any questions about parlays or are most confident, feel free to hit us up there. But enjoy the fights, everybody, and I'm out.
Yeah, basically, second everything Aaron just said. We will both say thank you for 500 subscribers. We're on our way up.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, appreciate every listener and enjoy the fights. Peace.
Yeah. Peace out.